week goes to Amy Chatwin, who said, "I did it. Just binge watch Cristen conquer videos for an hour and a half. Time well and hilariously spent. Hashtag lady laugh. Hashtag pat on the back." This week on Stuff I Never Told You, I answered one of your Ask Cristen questions about whether straight guys prefer butts or boobs. Then I showed y'all vintage beauty products that look like torture devices. On Friday, it was 7 ways to not get pregnant, which I made largely because I am concerned by the number of people who think that douching is an effective form of birth control. Enough about douching, and on to Ask Cristen! Thanks to everybody who watched and commented on last week's Ask Cristen video, why is pink for girls and blue for boys? In reading your comments, I realized that I don't think I have a favorite color. Does that mean I am part robot? I think Frankie K knows what I'm talking about. When I was a kid, my favorite color was stripes because I thought it was unfair to the colors to pick one favorite. I still think that way sometimes. I have a stronger preference for polka dots than I do for a color. Now it's good for me. Also had this to say, I think, as you said in the end, it's a lot about cultural differences. When I lived in Southern Africa, I got so much flack for wanting to wear red traditional clothing because red in their culture is strictly for boys, while blue is appropriate for girls. Every time someone tries to tell me our pink-blue scheme comes from the hunting-gathering days, I tell this story. A story as old as time. No, that's a different story. And now to this week's question from Susan Blue, wondering why and when the term gay changed from meaning happy, merry, to homosexual. Gay people first adopted gay as a slang reference to themselves in the 1920s and 30s. You might be wondering, well, why didn't they just call themselves homosexual? Homosexual hasn't always been such a friendly term to gay people. Until 1973, homosexuality was listed in the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, aka the Psychiatrist's Bible, categorized as a sociopathic personality disorder. Calling yourself gay, probably a lot nicer feeling than saying, "Hi, I'm Jerry and I'm attracted to men because I am a homosexual man. Oh, also I have a sociopathic personality disorder." Hey, Jerry. That was Barry, Jerry's friend. And that's kind of ironic considering that the first person to use the term homosexuality was actually a 19th century Hungarian journalist who was writing in opposition to Germany's anti-sodomy laws. The New York Times reported earlier this year that, quote, "The early gay rights movement was called the homophile movement because its founders explicitly rejected the word homosexual. They did not want to be identified as exclusively sexual beings." Which makes sense when you consider that during that time, they were reduced down to their sexual orientation, and by virtue of their sexual orientation, considered deviant and other, and even to have a sociopathic personality disorder. The general use of the term homosexual has largely fallen out of favor, to the point that, for instance, the Associated Press restricts its use. There are a lot of newspapers where you will not see the word homosexual used unless it is explicitly in someone's quote. A lot of linguists today are thinking that it will gradually fade from our common vocabulary and really become a linguistic relic of our discriminatory and not so equal past. But now I'm curious to know from gay viewers in particular, what do you think about the term homosexual? Do you think that it should be retired? Does it not bother you? Do you think that it should be reclaimed in some kind of way? And for other people, were you aware that homosexual might not be the friendliest term to use? You could just use gay. It's not about language policing, it's about language improving. Let me know below, and as always, ask me your questions so I can give you some answers and maybe make you mad because I'm making you think twice about what you ought to say, and people don't like that when you say, "Don't use that word, it's not a good word." And people are like, "First Amendment," and you're like, be a good person. You can still have freedom of speech.